This is from Ohio State, just last April 2023. We were doing a session called Should You Follow Your Heart? And there's a kind of a little laughter beforehand because we just came out of a joke. It's when the guy says, my son is gay, we're laughing. It wasn't meant to be. It was a leftover from what somebody else had said something, but let's play this and we can talk about it.
My oldest son, David, is gay.
We're about out of time.
Okay. And
go ahead.
We've had some great conversations. He's asked me some great questions. One of his really interesting questions was, so Dad, let's say I find a man who I love and we try and be good moral people and blah, blah, blah.
Stop.
Good people. I know.
Stop. What does good moral people mean?
Can I finish the question?
No. When I'm talking to him, as soon as he starts bringing up a moral standard, you need to say, where are you getting this moral standard from? And why do you think that's the purpose of life, to be good moral people? Where does this come from?
No, that's a good answer. Should have thought of that. But so I definitely will ask him that again. But he says he's done some research, and Barna does good research and finds that about 30%, maybe even a third of ministers struggle with pornography.
Yeah.
Regularly.
Probably true.
And so it could be more. Those are the ones who admit it. You're right. So he says, what if I have this loving relationship and maybe we have sex once a week, which is simple.
Hey, Jorge, stop for just a second if you can.
Yeah.
Notice that people, when they're asking a question, normally there's an assumption or two underneath the question that you can challenge. And you'll see when someone talks about right and wrong or good or bad, you might want to stop and ask them, especially if they're not Christians, by what moral standard are you making such a judgment? Because if there is no God, it's just your opinion, right? And also people assume that the purpose of life is to just be a good person. Well, where do we get that from? And first of all, what does good mean? And then secondly, why do you think that's the purpose of life? You're just assuming it is. I had an interview with Dave Rubin, who we agree on a lot. Obviously, Dave Rubin, however, personally is in a same-sex relationship himself, but politically and many issues we agree. And although he's not a Christian, we were in this, which you can see on his YouTube channel, this discussion about Christianity. He said something like, well, can't we just be good moral people? And I basically said, I'm paraphrasing, he didn't say it exactly that way. I'm saying, well, I don't think the purpose of life is to be a good moral person. That might be the result of the purpose, which is to know God and to make him known. But that's not the purpose. It's a result. It's a fruit of the purpose of life. But a lot of people think, well, if I'm just a good moral person, everything's going to be just fine. That's why we're here.
Which is sinful. He's read the Bible too. And someone who's a follower of Christ looks at pornography once a week. What's the difference?
They're both sinful, and they both should want to stop doing that. The problem is, as I see it, is that I don't think any pastor is going to get up and say pornography is a good thing and you ought to do it. But I do see some pastors now saying that same-sex relationships ought to be blessed by the church and by God. For example, the Church of England is now saying that, and that's why Calvin Robinson got up and gave that great speech to counterpoint that. So we're all sinners. Everybody, or no one's going to make it to heaven without Jesus. Oh, well, what about this sin? Okay, yeah, that's another sin that's going to keep you out of the kingdom. Homosexuality isn't the one thing that's going to keep you out of heaven, because even if you do engage in homosexual acts, you've done other evil things too, right? Just like heterosexuality isn't going to get you into heaven. Because whether you're homosexual or heterosexual in your identity, your claimed identity, you've done evil elsewhere. So why don't we just talk about good and evil to begin with? And how are you going to have the evil that you've done atoned for? Do you want grace or do you want justice in the afterlife?
That's good.
Yeah, you're only going to get one of the two. You're either going to get grace or justice.
Absolutely.
So even if a person is correct, the homosexual son of this man is not correct that same-sex relationships are just fine. But even if he was correct, he's still a sinner elsewhere. So
Yeah.
I think it's important to always bring it back to the gospel. You might say, for the sake of argument, let's say you're right. You still need a savior, right? Whether same-sex relationships are okay or not, you still need a savior. And oh, by the way, by what standard are you saying it's correct? Any other insights from that, Phoenix?
Well, when I hear him say that, my instant reaction is, so what? Okay, so let's say every pastor, heaven forbid, every pastor is addicted to pornography. And what? Like, sure, that's a separate issue, but what impact does that have at all on your sexual ethics? Nothing. So really, it was just like, to me, it was a distraction. It was a red herring. But I also thought, you know, this is a common problem, that Christians have been inconsistent with their Christian ethics. And that's really damaged a lot of the ground that we could have made, the bridges we could have been building with people wrestling with same-sex attraction, is that we aren't consistent with sex, premarital sex, pornography, things like that. Generally speaking, it's for some reason, homosexuality, that's the big no-no. All the others are smaller no-nos. And it's like, no, it's all wrong.
One of the things that I wanted to say is, if you guys listen to our Meet With podcast that we did, all of these ideas, like this man's son ideas about, you know, well, maybe monogamy within a same-sex relationship is not that bad, are being sold and infiltrated in the church, as they are in many places in just secular society. So we have to be careful that with who we're allowing to speak in our churches, and what ideas are we buying into, right?
That's right.
A father like that, I mean, my heart breaks. I don't know what something like that would feel, but at the end of the day, you know, we have to be able to answer these questions in a eloquent way, in a truthful way, because this is one thing that we cannot allow, and that is not just homosexuality; it's sin. Period.
Well, the solution is not to say everything's okay because we're all inconsistent. The solution is stop being inconsistent. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Maybe we should talk more about that issue too. But there is a difference, as I mentioned in here, that very few people are going to say divorce is a good thing or pornography is a good thing, or, you know, but they will say same-sex behavior is a good thing. So this is actually being promoted.
Right. Flip it around. Yeah. Absolutely.